adult wonder as well. We're always kind of riding this line of like, can't be too much, can't be too little.
Give us permissions to wonder.
It's just as powerful and just as unique. Self-distancing, this ability to step away from our egocentrism. You're going to lose sometimes, die sometimes, you mess up and fail. It's really hard to judge yourself or to fear judgment when you're engaged in play. Opportunity to envision themselves as something that they're not and something that maybe they wish they were more of.
Welcome to Magic Academy podcast. Strother is an international leader, coach, and therapist. His specialty is in the immersive play. In his words, it's a play therapy for adults.
Yeah.
And in his ways of healing, he integrates the element of immersive storytelling, narratives, performance arts. They integrate them together into an immersive experience, discover the potential not that we have in our behaviors or our cognitive frameworks, in our leadership challenges. Core topic for this conversation is to explore what is play therapy for adults. What is that? And then how do we leveraging or harnessing the power of immersive play to help us find deeper alignment within ourselves in a more unpredictable, challenging, disoriented world. So let's get started.
Let's do it. Yeah.
Perfect. Beep, beep, beep. In front of you lands a spaceship, and out walks a friendly alien. If you were to use one word, one sound, or one movement to invite the alien to play, what would that be?
Let's see. I think it's got to be an offer of some sort. I'd probably go sound, because who knows if they speak my language. Be something like, I think at an outreach. I think in immersive theater, we talk about doing that with audience members. Like it's always an offer, not a demand. When you think of play therapy, you think of sand tray, where you're building worlds in the sand. You think of doll work, where you're playing with dolls and sort of imbuing them with characteristics. And in looking at what had happened with my audience members and the intended outcomes that you would have in play therapy with children, it's the same sort of pathway where it was like, well, they come in and they're really tight. And when they leave, they've opened up in some interesting way. And so looking at child-based play therapy and not really seeing a lot of work that ties it to adults, I started thinking, well, there's got to be some type of therapeutic intervention or some type of therapeutic work that's designed for adults that also activates this part of our brain, that activates this part of our emotional core. And some people do. There's some interesting therapeutic interventions that have theatrical elements, but they don't. One of the things I'm really interested in as an artist who became a therapist is do things like production value and costume and the talent of the performer and the talent of the collaborator elevate the impact of the intervention? Or is it really just it's just the act of creating with somebody across the way from you? So immersive gives people an opportunity to envision themselves as something that they're not and something that maybe they wish they were more of. It was really fascinating to kind of watch the journey of audience members from the beginning of the show to the end of the show. A lot of times it's how can I get people to let go of some of the rigidity? How can I help people get out of their own way, which is a bit of a trite coachy thing, but is very real. And I was seeing these people do it through this character work, through play, whether that be through prop or costume or mask or just sort of the journal work that we do, that allows you to inhabit something that doesn't feel quite like you. When I think of the larger pieces that I've been working on an escape room designed to help people manage their anxiety by solving puzzles in the room that helps them know how to do things in the real world too. In those situations, it's something that surrounds you on all sides, something that you are an active participant in, something that you're not just reading about or talking about, but something that you're engaged in doing.
So it's a visceral, embodied experience in a safely curated and designed interactive space.
Yeah, it's so fascinating because the artist side of me, and I think most artists think this, it's not a big leap for us to say that art is therapeutic. And so for me, anytime I go and experience art, whether it be music or theater or visual art, I could get some type of therapeutic benefit from that. But I'm curious now, as a therapist, can I create work that is designed to do that as opposed to doing it as a byproduct? I don't think many artists are necessarily thinking about the therapeutic impact their work will have on the audience. Some do, but not all. And is it something that we can play with when we say, based on the research in what helps people in therapeutic instances, can I build something that does that, but is maybe a bit more of a Trojan horse of mental health as opposed to something that feels like an intense intervention where you lay on the couch and we talk about your issues?
Can you give us a tangible, vivid visualization of what a immersive therapeutical play for adults look like, feel like, or yeah, feel like, look like?
Sure.
I'm gonna close
I
my eyes and try to
can
visualize.
imagine it. Okay. I'll start with one big visual that some people might be like, "Oh no, I don't want to do that," but then I'll walk it back. I think that when we embody a new character as an actor, one of the moments that it really comes together is when the costume comes out. You might be playing this character for a long time before you get the headpiece or the wig or the shirt or the shoes. Oftentimes, the shoes is a big element. So, is there a type of character that you want to be more like? Can we integrate a costume piece that feels like that character that you can wear and feel what that feels like? The easiest one to work on is a wig. I am bald. And it is completely different when you put on a wig. The second that a wig goes on and you look at yourself in the mirror, you feel like a different character. And what is it about that character that you would like to embody? What is it about that character that maybe you don't want to embody? What is it about that character that you can take with you once the wig comes off, or the sunglasses, or the costume piece, or the brooch, or the necklace? There are elements that we can put into our own costuming that gives us access to a character that may be like us, plus some extra good bits. And then we can just wear it out as ourselves, and we have access to something we might not have had otherwise. The other one that might be a little less like, you don't have to go out in a wig. You don't have to do drag. I would love to do drag with you, but we don't have to do drag as a therapy
What is a
exercise.
drag? Sorry.
Drag, so dressing as another gender expression. So when I do drag, my name is Joanne Fabrics, and I keep the
Oh,
beard and I have a red wig and beautiful dress, and I look fairly masculine presenting now, but we can doll it up on the other side too.
that's
So
beautiful.
yeah,
In my case, I can dress up with like a guy to experience what it feels like in a different gender.
yeah, let's give you a suit and maybe like a sort of stereotypical hat and see, does that feel different the way that you navigate the world? Exactly. Like what you're doing right now, even with your eyes closed, is something that play gives us access to. And I think of it from my theater training, this idea of like our energy centers. In my normal life, usually lead with kind of like my chest or my shoulders. But if I'm in drag, I'm leading more from my hips. And how does that feel different from like you did when you sort of puffed up and got taller? So how does that feel different? And do I like it? Do I not? Can I incorporate that? If you're about to give a presentation, is it helpful for you to kind of like do that? Or is it restrictive? It's all data for us to learn about who we are and how we show up and how this character may or may not be different from us.
I It's very interesting because sometimes, I mean, the gender is given and we kind of get shuffled into those different genders, and the society has a particular expectation of what a gender should behave and what is a good, what is bad for a particular gender to carry. And however, I think deep down we are all very multidimensional. We have this divine feminine, divine masculine energies that's all in play, just like just it's in harmony. And
Mhm.
sometimes, if we are locked in a particular gender and the all the accompanied expectations coming from the world. Sometimes if it's aligned, then that's great. Like if it's not aligned, it can get very one dimensional and it feels like we're not authentic, we're being too fragmented. And
Mhm.
it's very interesting to explore all the different possibilities of us as a being. So I do see that like the role play, the immersive theater provides us with an safe invitation to be a different person or to
Mhm.
play out another side of a holistic being. That's great.
The example that I love that you're talking about this in that way because my personal examples, I grew up in rural Kentucky where femininity kind of in anyone, both in cisgendered women and also man is looked down upon. The masculinity is much more preferred. And so as a queer person growing up in that space, there were lots of times when anything that I would do that felt effeminate, I would either butch it up or like try to lock that down or speak in a lower voice or not move my hips in that way. And so it is restrictive to fit into a specific box, but that's what I had to do to survive. And so it's what you do. And the first time that I actually did full drag, you swing the pendulum so far to the other side, but it doesn't feel like me. It feels like the character, but it's, of course, me doing the play acting. And so after that gig, and I came out of drag and like you wipe off all the makeup, you take off all of the fancy clothes, and I'm back to kind of me as my default self. I'd now expanded my capacity with what I had done in my body. And I could say, like, oh, that feels really good over there. And actually, sort of interestingly enough, coming back into like my masculine side as well, I felt more comfortable on that side too, because I'd spread into the feminine side. And so, this ability to explore all of the sort of nooks and crannies of yourself in role playing and what I would always usually call self distancing, this ability to step away from our egocentrism. And I'm so worried people are going to judge me that I come across as effeminate as Strother, but I'm not worried about anybody judging Joanne as feminine because that's who she is. But the turn of it all is it's still me in that body. I'm still making that choice. I'm the one learning and experiencing. It's just my perception of how people are looking at me that changes.
Oh, that's beautiful. I think most importantly is how you view yourself changes. I think sometimes we're our biggest critic. And as I'm listening to your stories, I think it's the same for women too. Like if a woman, I think in general the world is upplaying the masculinity and hustle and just like if you don't hustle feels like you're not worthy. Like or things won't happen. And for women who really wanted to fit in this kind of success profile of the current society or the current spectrum is to have that masculine side out. And sometimes if a woman demonstrate a lot of masculinity, then that attracts a lot of judgment from the
Mhm.
outside and people will see same uh masculinity differently across a woman versus a man. So I think it's a very judgy
Sure.
world where you just it feels like you can't be perfect. Like anything that you're trying to mm, step out of your default mode or comfort zone is viewed as something not welcomed, as if you being your default is the way the world wants you to be, but which is, I mean, that's gonna be a life too small.
Well, you're right. We're trapped in like I love that you say too small because it feels like we're always kind of riding this line of like you can't be too much, but you also can't be too little. So you kind of have to always be really aware of where you're fitting and what we think of you, or even like you said, what I think of myself. For the longest time I never wore any type of jewelry because I thought, well, I'm not a ring person. Like I can't pull that off. And it was just that's what my brain had told me was my normal, and by going above it it's like, oh, actually I don't have to, but I can. And so you feel less restricted, you feel you have more access to things. And I think to tie it all the way back when you said why play, you talked about the shame of living in the world and people sort of judging you and looking at you and our own self judgment. it's really hard to judge yourself or to fear judgment when you're engaged in play. Because play, we know we're going to mess up. Like if you're playing Mario Kart, you know you're going to lose sometimes. If you are playing a fighting game, you're going to die sometimes. That's part of the thing, is that you mess up and you fail. But in the real world, we go, we could never. If I fail, everyone's going to judge me or I'm going to judge myself. So when we engage in that playful side and we're able to integrate play more into our professional world, that shame dissipates, which allows access. That idea that it's okay for us to fail sometimes because we'll learn and get better starts to get easier to tolerate, as opposed to in a space where we're like, if I fail at all, I'm going to get fired. If I fail at all, I'm going to be destitute on the street. The leaps our brains make in failure and shame are so much bigger than they oftentimes really are. And play allows us that extra space.
That's beautiful. So it's like a very safe experimental space.
Yeah, I love a good experiment. Yeah, I think play's a perfect experimental place, a place to try something new. I feel people do it way easier than I think they would most of the time. Like I try and give them something that so think I think about tabletop role playing games like Dungeons and Dragons or Vampire the Masquerade, or things that people get around a table and tell a story collectively. People really quickly fall into like, we all see the same thing. Like we're using little miniatures and that's enough for us to get there. I think that suspension of disbelief is something that I feel like humans crave this. They crave that fantasy. They want to be able to say like, let me teleport away from this world for a second and just play around in another one that doesn't feel quite as heavy right now. And I think when you give people the opportunity, when you we call it sometimes in immersive theater the magic circle, which is when you step into the magic circle, you're leaving the world of before and you're now coming into this world. And these are the rules of this world. And this is how it's different from that one over there. And so when you that can be as simple as walking through a doorway, and on the other side of the doorway, we're now in the world. But it can also be like the onboarding process that you give with them at the beginning of the show. And as we, like you did at the beginning, no one can see this, but before we recorded this, you do a ritual and we do that. And that is now we're stepping into the special place. And then we'll step out of the special place. And so if we can give people a good step into the magic circle, whatever that looks like, they're ready to, they'll suspend their disbelief, no problem. They're like, let's all go. Like we're all in wigs, but that means this. And like people will do it. Yeah.
Yeah. And I have some questions on the theories and the
Sure.
science behind the play therapy. Are there any big thought leaders, researchers, authors who lay the foundation of play therapy, immersive storytelling that contributes to therapeutical outcome, such as deeper self-acceptance, eradication of
Sure.
shame?
There's not sort of like an agreed upon this is it. I think what I've found in my research so far, and I totally could be missing someone. So my hope is that there's some, I know there are other people out there doing work in the play space, but the way that I've cobbled it together has been taking things from all sorts of different people. So I've been working with this wonderful immersive performance lead named Jeff Worth. And I'm looking at his book over here on interactive performance right now. And he and I do a lot of work sort of talking back and forth on, okay, from the actor perspective, like how can they help in this space? And his work in immersive performance, which is around sort of, he does a lot of work in interactive performance, immersive theater, theme parks, places where there's that connection with the audience. And so he does a lot of really interesting stuff. Punch Drunk is a well-known creative team that ran Sleep No More for many, many years in New York, which is a lot of people's first immersive theater entryway. They're opening another one soon called Viola's Room. And then sort of, more traditional, Jungian psychology and Brene Brown and vulnerability. It's a hodgepodge for me of creators and people in that space, like drag queens, I think are really inspiring to me. People doing any type of role playing games like LARPing is inspiring to me. There's a lot of people that are kind of hovering around this idea, and I think everyone is taking a specific tact on it. But I don't know of someone who's like the guru that we go to for all things play therapy yet.
I think that's the beauty of it. It's very cross-disciplinary, vibrant, because diversity fuels growth and
Right.
feels like it's a very growing space.
Yeah, my background, I was an opera singer for a while in undergrad, and I don't really do it much anymore. Like, I don't do it at all. Like, what am I saying? I haven't done it in forever. But music therapy is a huge thing that I have nothing to do with right now. But I know there are lots of musical therapists out there who are integrating it into their work. So I think it is potentially it's the creative process integrates into therapy really well. Role playing integrates into therapy really well. Experiments and exploration is a huge part of it. So I think you're right. It's a big chestnut that we all can kind of get into.
That's great. That means that growth, there's a lot of growth opportunities and experiences that can come out of it. Beautiful. So I'm curious, like moving into the future as we have more enhancement possibilities from technology, do
Mhm.
you see this immersive play can take place in virtual spaces like as simple as Zoom or as sophisticated as virtual reality or augmented reality? What is your take on the future?
Well, you mentioned sort of the business perspective on this, and like when I think about mental health in the US right now, I forget the exact statistic and it will have changed by the time people are listening to this, but it's something to the effect of if every mental health provider in the country was seeing every person that needed to be seen, our caseload would be like 375 people a week. It's completely unsustainable. Like right now we're at a place where one-on-one mental health, like there's not enough providers for the people that request the service. And so, the business case and the thing that people are starting to try and figure out is how do we scale something that is intrinsically really bespoke. You and I, it would be hard for me to work on your mental health or your personal development in a really general way because all of your life has been so important to getting you to where you are now. So as we unpack trauma, as we unpack your coping mechanisms, as we unpack all of these different things, it's hard for me to just say, well, if you just do this one thing, like it'll be great for everybody.
Personalized
And
too.
so with virtual reality or augmented reality, and people really get fussy around the concept of AI in this space too, which I share some ethical hesitations around. But what, when it comes to scalability, does technology usage look like? And I would love, I have no technical background other than I like playing video games, but I do not know how to do this at all. But I would love to build some type of virtual reality experience that allows people the opportunity to play a role in a space. And I know that there are theater companies that have experimented with. We have live actors who are playing the virtual avatars in the world and interacting with people live at specific times. So stuff is happening in that space. I think it's really early days in that. I think that something that's really interesting is watching artists and tech folks come together because they just speak such different languages in many ways and their intention can be very different. So I'm watching some places where they're starting to have those conversations and they're really exciting. A friend of mine, Josh Rubens, spoke at South by Southwest on this and his talk just came out today. And how do we integrate these predictive AI and virtual reality into interactive and immersive storytelling? And I think that he's got a good um, sort of first draft of how can we do that? What's the idea? How do we put ethical guidelines on it? Because particularly with growth or mental health, it's leaving that to a bot feels really spooky to me. Like I don't want to do that, but I also recognize that they've seen that AI bots can effectively deliver sort of CBT therapy for the first like 10%. So if I was in crisis and I went to ChatGPT and said, I'm in crisis, give me a CBT, practice to do right now, it gives a pretty good one. Like, and if that's how I get help in that moment, I want people to have that. So how do we give people the experience of connectivity, which is a huge part of the therapeutic process, while also eliminating barriers of it costs $200 to do this. It costs $500. Whatever the money is. We're trying to eliminate stigma for mental health development. We're eliminating barriers in finance. We're eliminating insurance problems. Like there's so many big knots to untie that tech might be able to untie some of them, but I don't think it can untie all of them. So I'd love to see the intersection of it all.
Yeah, and from the personal perspective, I think the mental health emergency help from the AI is definitely very helpful because I did actually ask AI about some morning routines or
Mhm.
grounding techniques, and they come up with really good words as guide, and it was like, oh, I haven't thought about that. So that's great. On the other side, I'd also see that sometimes the AI may not be able to carry all the context throughout time, and they sometimes forget. If you talk to AI long enough, at least I tried. Last time I tried, they lost co- context. So all the previous conversation feels like it's not in the database anymore. So I think that's where the human kind of therapists and experts will come in and bringing in and integrating and compounding those contexts towards solutions as people continues to evolve. Also, I think this immersive space, I feel like we need a lot of real human behind it too, because this improvisation, interactivity, live.
And thinking about, as a client in that space, I'm thinking of maybe a client who struggles to connect with people in the real world. If we send them to AI over and over again, what they're learning to connect with is AI and not people. And people are imperfect and people and obviously AI makes a lot of mistakes, but like the
Kind of.
messiness of humanity, right? Exactly. The messiness of humanity is something that when you struggle with connecting can be one of the things that is hard to be with. It's like, oh, it gets so messy, and maybe they won't react that way, or maybe they'll judge me, or maybe I'll feel weird when they're around, or maybe I'll judge myself because I think that they're too good. And we have to learn how to navigate that in the world. If the only solution is we put people in front of ChatGPT, it's going to hit a wall where the effectiveness just goes. But if it's how can I make my morning routine better? Sure, I can help with that, but AI probably could too. And that means that when you come to me, you've already morning routine set up, and we can start working on the other stuff.
What did you enjoy creating so much that time disappeared for you when you were 11 years old?
When I was 11,
Or 8 or
or yeah, around
15?
there. Let's see. So it's not I'm going to defend it as creating, though some people might push back on it. As a kid, my number one thing was video games, always. It was the place where I would lose myself. It was the place where I would spend a lot of time there. And I know that people have, oftentimes, particularly parents, have a really negative response to like, oh my gosh, my kid is playing all of these video games and there's screen time, and why don't they go outside? And for me, as a kid, particularly as a queer kid growing up in a rural community where there was no queer representation, where there was no like diversity of really any type, being able to immerse myself in these stories where I was in control, like I am playing it, I am the person moving the character around. I got to learn about like the types of ways that I want to show up in the world. What does it mean to be a hero? What does it mean to help people? What does it mean? And then obviously there are games that don't follow those at all. But there those types of things, that's where I would always lose myself as a kid, is in story, is in narrative, is in game. And so for me, as I age and I get older, I think about, where do I lose myself now? It's in theater, it's in music, it's in board games, it's still in video games. It's a place where I can really plug into a narrative that allows me to experience the world in a different way. And that's what video games were for me as a kid.
That's when you have your sense of agency and you have the ability to discern which one to immerse yourself in. So I think the self leadership needs to be there so we don't get too lost and we still harness the benefits and rewards from
I
that.
think
I
of
think
this
you
in
you
Oh,
You
you've like
intuitively know, feels like, because some people can really get lost, and I feel like early on, you already have
yes.
this intuition.
For me, the thing that to tie to this back to everything we've been talking about, autonomy is so important in a game because you, like you said, it's like you're in control, you're doing the thing. In immersive theater, in role playing, in games, like you are the one making the choice, which is different from passively watching something on TV or a traditional theatrical experience. To me, the therapeutic benefit often lies in the autonomy piece that says you get to decide. And maybe it's sometimes the illusion of choice, like when a magician says, pick one of these two. And if you pick the right one, they say, great, you took that one. And if you pick the wrong one, they go, great, we'll get rid of that one and we'll use this one. Like the illusion of choice is still, for us, our experience is still, I got to have a say. That was so important to me. So gaming and play gives us an opportunity, particularly if we feel like we don't have a lot of autonomy in other spaces, to feel what it feels like to be the one in charge, to be the one in control, to be the one who says, this is how the story should go.
Yeah. When we were talking about the shame piece previously, I feel like a big thing is us allowing us this agency to give ourselves permission to first feel the shame, acknowledge there's a shame, and then give us the permission to release the shame through
Mhm.
our action, through our reparative measures. So it does come back to the sense of agency, like we tend to experience in the games or like a
Mhm.
video game and all that. And I think your immersive theater therapeutical play is to actually give them different identities and along with it a sense of agency that they have never experienced before, and through that sense of agency they get to explore and heal and repair and grow. Hmm,
You
that's
nailed it.
beautiful. That's beautiful. That's beautiful. And then I'm wondering, so behind you there different collections. And I think that's level 1, and we also have level 2, I
Me
bet.
too. There's some things in there as well. Yeah.
Yeah. Can you tell us some stories behind it? And just anything like why this is the collection and
Sure.
mhm.
Let's see. There's so many. I collect. I'm like a penguin collecting pebbles everywhere I go. So a lot of this is related to trips I've taken or things that I have loved in the past. So like this was tied to a puppet that I used to work with. I love video games, so a lot of these things are video game related. A friend of mine said that I remind her of Steven Universe, so he's up there. My partner calls me a capybara, so these two
Barbara
are here. My friend made me the crochet dumpster fire. This is from Hong
dumpster fire.
Kong. What's up top? These are gifts from friends. This is from Tokyo Disney. This is art that a friend of mine did. This is my Miss Cleo tarot deck for any millennial that grew up watching Miss Cleo. I got her at a thrift store. Obviously, get some
Oh.
plants in there. I love Legos, and my company, the coaching company, is But I'm a Unicorn, damn it. So everyone gives me unicorn stuff all the time. This little sassy hippos from Cape Town. So they're all just pieces. And if I could spin it's a desktop. So if I spin it around, it's going to knock everything over. But kind of all throughout my living space, like I collect all of these pieces that remind me of fun things that I've done or places that I've been or experiences that I want to commemorate. And I feel like that's an important part of how I decorate my space is reminding myself of all of the connections that I have and the people that I love and the experiences that have made me who I am. And so they kind of go all over the place.
That's beautiful. It's always good to have physical representations of things that gives us love and joy, and sometimes for people they do photos, they put photos in
Mhm.
the fridge, or they collect the fridge, uh what's that, the
The
fridge
magnets that go up there.
magnets as they go around.
I have a
Yeah,
couple of those in my. If I could take them in my kitchen, yeah, I have a
yeah.
couple there too. I think it goes back to my one of my favorite games growing up was Zelda, the original Link. And when you walk into the first place, the old man gives you the sword and says it's dangerous to go alone. Take this. And so these are kind of my reminders of all of the things and people that I have. And so I don't feel alone when I've got all that around.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
What is your magic, do you think? And our magic evolves all the time. So as of
I agree. I used to say catalyst. I used to say, like, if you put me in with 2 other people or 2 different groups that I'm able to help make something happen. And I think now I think curator is part of my magic, like the ability to find things and bring them and see what's important and pull out the unique bits. And I also think that translator is a big part too, because I spent a lot of my time in grad school and outside of communicating between groups that may or may not speak the same language, like we talked about a little earlier, like tech folks and creatives. Like I can speak enough of both languages that I can be in between and get both of them on board. And business and social, like we can do some of that. So I feel pretty comfortable in those spaces, and I think that that is probably part of my magic spells.
oh, that's beautiful. Curating and cross-disciplinary communicating. How do you keep your magic alive?
Ooh. I mean, through play, I think. I think it's through connection, it's through play. I just adopted a dog who I'm just in love with. She's upstairs in my room right now to is not disrupt the recording. But
Thank you.
oh yeah, her name is Noodles. Thank you, Noodles. I think those connections are important to keeping it alive and prioritizing. You have to meet your needs and you have to figure out what those are and be intentional about getting them, and then giving yourself time to recover and work and push, but also to breathe. You have to have the exhale after the inhale. And if you're going to do the work, then you have to have time to come out of it too.
That's I see. So it's like a space, different space, like the magical circle, and then the space outside of the magical circle.
Totally. The transition's so important.
The transition. What role do you think childlike wonder play? First, what do you think is a childlike wonder in adult context?
I think maybe I sometimes like take issue with the idea of childlike wonder, because I think that we have adult wonder as well, and it's just as powerful and just as unique. And it's just because we feel that's not what it means to be an adult that we avoid that, but that wonder in and of itself is still just such a powerful opportunity for us. And so it maybe the last time we really allowed ourselves to feel it was as a child, but I think that we still have it as adults as well.
Give us permissions to feel the same
Yeah.
levels of wonder that
Yeah.
we were experiencing that in as a kid. That's great. Beautiful. I think we've
Yeah,
touched. Did we touch all the?
we did it.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
Great.
and just in time.
For folks who wanted to get connected with Strother, his information will be in the link below. So please connect, and maybe you can collaborate. Maybe you can work
Yeah,
together. It's a way for us to grow the magical communities, and with no judgment. There's all the safety and the magic, and the future is yours because you have all the permissions that you need.
yeah, I'd love
So
to meet
good
you.
to have you, Strother.
Thank you.